Hey everybody, it's Dave with No Chaser, and I feel pretty good this morning. I had a coffee, and then antidepressant, and then a muffin, and I topped it all off with a Claritin. So breakfast of winners, folks. Anyways, today's topic is choose your own intervention. It's kind of like a play on the phrase of the choose your own adventure. You know those books where you'd be reading and you get to a point where it'd be like, turn to page 52 if you want to go to the carnival, or turn to page 72 if you want to meet the wizard or something. It's like that, but in the world of alcoholism and addiction. The way I see it is it's kind of like this. If you drank or used like I did, you went hard in the paint, as the kids say. Basically, the way you were drinking or using, you weren't even really functioning anymore, or it was getting harder and harder to. Essentially, at that point, the reality is that something is going to stop you. Something will. Now, that could either be outside forces or it could be you. And I know what you may be thinking. What do you mean it could be me? Like, I have a choice to stop? Isn't that the whole problem with addiction is the lack of choice? I'll break it down kind of like this, where, in Alcoholics Anonymous, they have the notion that if you keep drinking, you have like three options: jails, institutions, or death. Now, you might be thinking, well, there's also a fourth and other terrible option where, you could be homeless and just living on the streets, ripping and running. And I've known many people who have done that and, done it for years, but it ends up back to the, jails, institutions, and death anyways. And the funny thing is that those people that I know that I met them in institutions. And that one, if you want to look at it that way, the institution option is a little bit more varied. I also think of it as you can get incarcerated, go crazy, or die. But maybe not full crazy. Like, for instance, if you use chemicals, I mean, if you're drinking super heavy, if you're using super heavy day after day after day, your mind kind of deteriorates, as mine did. So, there was quite a few times I went to psych wards, ladies. No, but also, you can think of those as institutions, or you can think of treatment centers, rehabilitation centers, and not just the 28-day or 30-day ones. They have like long-term ones. I mean, essentially, that is like kind of the better option because jail and prison. I mean, that option at least is in like towards a solution. Death super is not, and jails and prisons. I mean, I don't know. I know plenty of people that actually have gotten sober and clean in jail and prison, and went on from that. A lot of them, they drank or used right after that because, again, it's not, incarceration isn't really, it's not less rehabilitative and more, retribution in a sense. A lot of people used in prison, found drugs there, or smoking the deuce or making, toilet wine or, okay, way off the point. But this idea of choose your own intervention, what it really comes down to is, like I said, an idea that okay, I don't like to say you too much, but I will say you. Just pretend that I'm talking to me here. You get to a point, and you have to come to the acceptance that, I mean, if you're way past that point of no return, if you're relapsing over and over again, almost to the point where it's not even relapse anymore, you're just having almost slips of sobriety, like you're just way more drinking and using than you're not, and you can't stop. But like I said, you have to come to the accepting notion that you are going to stop. Something is going to stop you. You can't go on like this. I mean, not that you can't go on like this in a sense that it's miserable and awful, which it is. But I mean, no, like there are going to be consequences then. You are going to go to jail for whatever reason, whether it's, using possession, or you have to sell drugs to get your drugs, or, you're high and you steal and do stuff, or you're drinking and you're drinking and driving, or again, you get into a fight, or just, I mean, all the stuff, the crazy sort of like directions you go when you've just been under the influence and under the influence for a very long time. Or I mean, again, you're talking about health problems and stuff. You can go back to that institution thing. An institution thing could also be hospitals, for a very long time. And like I said, something is going to. I mean, it's very rare that people just go, drink alcoholically, just use drugs and go their whole life. On their tombstone, they're like, I drank whiskey or I did coke every day and Didn't get in trouble. Haha. Also, my life probably sucked really bad. But again, for the most part, something is going to stop you, and it's good to really like try to grasp that. So, you're like, well, what am I to do? Because that sounds awful. So again, it's this idea that what about you stop yourself? Now, right away you're like, well, okay, that's stupid. It's the whole stopping of myself or the lack thereof is the whole problem in the first place. And when I think about it, is choose your own intervention. You have to intervene in your own life in a way where you make a decision that this is going to stop me. Like, almost think about it. I think it would be even a better way to think about, okay, I'm going to choose my own consequence. Now, whether that is checking into some sort of treatment facility or a treatment program, whether that is cutting off all those people in my life that I have to, whether maybe it's getting out of a relationship that I have to, whether it's, this job is just not working for me, or I'm going to get fired from it, and I have to, I have to move somewhere else. I can't right now, I can't be living alone. It's too isolating. There's a lot of places where you can live with sober people. There's certain options like that, but essentially thinking of it as an idea that, okay, I'm going to choose the consequences for myself because there are going to be some. I may be like getting away with it now. I may have gotten away with it for a long time, but I mean, it's just like Russian roulette in a way. Maybe the chamber is huge and there's only one bullet out of all the different slots, but if you just spin it and shoot it as many times, like that many times, it's bound to be the bullet sometime. And like you said, this is, I don't know if you're functioning. That's actually, a quick side note, that's almost a scarier thing. Like, in a very strange way, as horrific as many of the relapses were, I'm almost kind of grateful that I can't function anymore with drinking and using. I really can't. Like, truth be told, I would probably still be doing it if I could function. It's honestly to the point where the consequences have gotten so bad that it's just like, it's not even feasible. I mean, it always is. There's always a choice to go back out. And, I fight that. Right now, I fight that every day. But in a real sense, I can't function, And so in drinking and using that heavily, that persistently, something is going to happen to you. And, I've heard this sentiment a lot. Actually, a crazy amount of times I've heard it, in a sense. And it sounds, again, to normal people, a lot. I mean, most of the stuff sounds crazy to normal people. But even to some addicts and alcoholics, it sounds crazy. But, like, I know one guy who, he got pulled over. He was driving under the influence. He had drugs on him. In the state he was in, the drugs was going to be a felony charge. I mean, he was effed, right? But he said when he got pulled over and as he was getting arrested, he felt this sense of relief. He was like, oh, God, it's finally, like, even right as the cherry tops came on and, he just pulled over. He said he was just like, oh, it's finally done. I've heard that a lot where people, they got their house raided, they got arrested at work. They just, something came for them and was going to take them away. Or they woke up in the hospital and in a sense of like, okay, just finally something stopped me, right? And again, you think to yourself, well, if you, like, some people even said they wanted to get arrested. They wanted to get pulled over at some point because they needed something to stop them. And that may sound crazy. It's just like, I don't know, try to do that yourself, right? Which again, in this weird sort of dynamic goes against the entirety of the problem in the first place. But when I say, choose your own intervention, really, if you can, if there's some way, almost think of it as like trying to like sabotage your future use, like checking yourself into a place. I know that's really not feasible for a lot of people. I know that whatever life circumstances you have going on, maybe that's, you don't have the resources, the ability to do that. But it's, for the most part, I'll just say it's got to be something. It has to be something, because you can think about it in this way too. If I do this, well, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose where I'm going to live, and it's going to mess up everything. But if you keep drinking and using, that's going to mess up everything too, and probably in a much worse way. I mean, in some ways, if you try to plot, just your escape from this, and when I say escape from this, I don't just mean solely moving to a new town. Just be like, oh, I'm in Kansas City now, a whole new me. With that saying, everywhere you go, there you are. But in a real sense, if you think, okay, I'm going to intervene in my own life where I'm cutting this off. I'm not doing this. I'm gonna have to live with this person or these people because maybe at least they'll keep me accountable. Again, even if you don't really have that in your life, there's options of like sober living type places. I mean, I don't know. It depends on where you are, how big of a city you are, and how more options you have. But to think of something, because at the very least, even though your life may be like incredibly shaky and in a lot of turmoil right now, there's a way you can think about it, like choosing. Okay, well, at least I'm going to choose the punishment. At least try to think of it as like self-imposed punishment, where I'm going to have to do this, this, and this. I'm going to have to institute this in my life. Because, again, the whole idea is, I can't stress this enough, most likely, 99.99%, something's going to do that for you. Like, again, whether, if you're just like, well, I don't want to do those things, so I'm not going to stop. It's like, dude, eventually, or dude or lady, dude, eventually, something's going to stop it for you. Whether it's, getting fired from work, and then not being able to pay rent and, kicked off to the streets, whether, again, getting arrested, whether there's some huge health problem, or, again, one of the many just rando crazy things that happen. You're drunk and you slip downstairs and crack your head open. And then, God forbid, the ultimate thing that'll stop you, you overdose and die. Someone I know that I wasn't super close with, but knew for the past couple of years, that recently happened to them. It's so sad, and in the sense, and I don't like look upon them like, oh man, I can't believe that. Like, I know that very, very, very well could have happened to me, and in a real sense, it gets down to that point. At a certain point, depending on what, I don't know, the age or how long you've been doing this, it's so important to come to the realization that, man, this is not going to play out in any way that I would find preferable than to go this route, whether the route is treatment or doing some sort of intensive outpatient thing where maybe you can still live your life and work, moving into a safer, better place. And again, not just doing the moving thing, but completely starting some sort of line of counseling, intensive counseling, or a lot of recovery programs. I mean, it has to be something. It kind of goes back to my previous video where just the idea of just stopping is most likely not going to be enough, because it always comes back down to this. If there was a much easier, much, much more preferable way without a whole lot of sacrifice, you'd probably be doing it by now. You'd probably not be worrying about any of this stuff because you would be doing it. Because just naturally, as people, we're going to do the easier thing. We always look for the easier thing. And at a certain point, jumping in fully into recovery, even going to rehab or partaking in some form of treatment, that becomes the easier thing rather than the absolute just shit misery and just, oh my God, just the grind of daily, alcohol and drug use. Unfettered alcohol and drug use. So anyways, on that happy note, check the description. All that stuff has links to a podcast that I co-host, one of my books, and in a book you can also get for free. There's directions for that. Just other stuff, the confidential email. Other than that, be well.